Have you ever had the experience, and I'm sure most of us have, I don't even know why I'm asking you if you've had it, where you were so sure of yourself, but were just incredibly wrong, where you're adamantly arguing a position, and then you find out you're wrong? That happens in all of our lives. One embarrassing time for me was years ago when I was a younger priest. I would take high school kids canoeing in the boundary waters between Minnesota and Canada, and it was our first day out. We were starting on a route I had done before, and so I was very clear where we were going into the wilderness. I had my nice maps. We all got loaded up in our canoes, 5 canoes heading out, 10 of us, and we only had to go a little ways on this first lake, and then there was a portage, and we would take the portage over onto a much bigger lake. So we were heading out, and I, for some reason, turned too soon, but I was sure this was where we turned, and we went into a bay, and there should have been the portage there. So I'm looking on the map, trying to figure out where it was. It wasn't a very big bay. I bet we circled that bay for 2 hours, going round and round and round looking for that portage. In fact, I got out of the canoe at one point and went walking along the shoreline saying, this is a highly traveled route. It should be obvious, and it's just, maybe it's grown over or something like a less traveled route. Luckily, another group of canoers were heading the other direction. And we said to them, so where's the portage into Lake One? Oh, it's over there. What? It's the other direction? Yes. Like, no way. And so they're, okay, well, let's see if they're right. Yes. And then I think, okay, fearless leader, all these high school kids are looking at me like, we're never going to get out of the wilderness with this guy leading us, because he was so adamant. He was right. We're in this little circle. Oh. So we get a great example of that in today's gospel. The Sadducees are experts in the Old Testament first 5 books. They were conservatives. They were very traditionalists. They were not like the Pharisees, who had a broader view of things. These guys were strict in their interpretation of law. First 5 books, that's it. If it's not in the first 5 books, not of God. They ran the temple. They spent all their time studying. But they were so stuck in their own mindset that they could not see the Messiah standing right in front of them. And they're arguing their ridiculous little point, because Jesus was like the Pharisees, and he was talking about a life after this life, and the Sadducees would have none of that. There is no resurrection. There's only life here. And you get your rewards from God here. That Maccabees reading the first reading today, they would not have agreed with that. Those 7 young men were willing to give their lives, and their mother witnessed them being killed, because they believed in what God taught, that there's more. And so I'm willing to give my life. Very heroic, life-giving, tortured, and they remain adamant. But the Sadducees, no. They would hear none of that. So they present Jesus with this kind of ridiculous idea that this woman, who must not have cooked very well, she kills off 7 of her husbands. They all die. I think, don't eat her food. There's something there. You don't want to do that. But they all die, and then they say, well, in heaven, whose wife will she be? Like, this is going to trip up Jesus. This will really get him, because that it really was the law that if your brother's wife died and you're not married, then you marry her, because the whole point was preserving the family name. So you had to have a child so that the name would go on. And Jesus just says, we don't do that in heaven. Sorry. Heaven is so totally different from what you have here that you can't even imagine it. You'll be like angels. Life with God is not, people in heaven don't have babies. Don't need to do that anymore. Don't need to carry on the family name. That's not important. And then he uses in his own argument back their strictness of the law against them, because he quotes Exodus, one of the books that they use. And he quotes Moses, the guy who created all of those first 5 books. It just makes them mad. They're so stuck. They cannot see who's in front of them. They cannot see that truth. In fact, this happens not all that long before Jesus is arrested. And it is the Sadducees who will be part of his trial and his condemnation. Blind to the truth, to the love, to what was standing before them. So while it's good news for us, again, that Jesus talks about a resurrection today, and during our month of November, as we remember our loved ones who have died, it's good to know that there's a life beyond this life. But it's also a challenge to us today not to be so judgmental in our viewing of things different from us, that we might be closed off to the truth. That we need really, truly to follow Jesus and have hearts open and full of love, hearts that are accepting and willing to find the presence of God in the other, not to just push others away because they're not like us, because they don't fit our way of thinking or being, but to truly invite in those others to encounter Jesus, to know him. And even if we might think, well, they're really wrong. Father, those people are wrong. They don't belong here. I think, but the only way they're going to find that out is in their own journey, not by us telling them. Let them encounter Jesus. Let them come to know his love. And then they'll figure it out. Because when we're stuck in our own untruthfulness, it's really hard to admit we were wrong, right? I'll keep going in circles for an hour or two. Sure, I'm right. And so do they. It's only through that openness and that encounter with Jesus that any of us find our way to the truth. And sometimes that takes time and a willingness to say, maybe I was wrong.